In a previous video, I did an Earth Spike leveling guide, and now I'm going to show you the endgame guide. I'm already using this on the new season, and it's dealing millions of damage, and I haven't even transitioned to the mid-game build. As an added bonus, I'll show you where I'm at with my gear right now, so you have a better idea of how you could work through the game. But I'm going to break down every detail you need to be successful on Earth Spike. Now, before we get into the details, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and also drop by my Twitch at twitch.tv/screamart. Now let's get into it. So first off, this is my new character on the season. You can see that I'm basically using all legendaries. I do have one unique that I got, but it's not one I want for the build, kind of just a placeholder. It's better than a legendary helm, but not great. But overall, as you can see, I mostly have normal stuff, and I don't have Vasilis, which means I can't use Grizzly Rage, which breaks a lot of the build. So even with that, I'm doing hundreds of millions of damage, and I'm currently clearing Torment 3. You saw in the intro that I killed a Torment 3 boss, and I was having no problem with the content on the overworld. Now let me get into the details for the endgame build. So first off, make sure you click on the link underneath the video, because that's going to be the written guide, and you can follow along, or you can look at it in more detail later. I also have every other Druid build, so if you're interested, take a look. So I'm going to start by going over the basics of how the build works, and the most important synergies. So the main source of damage in the build is going to be Earth Spike, and you're going to shoot spikes out in a line because you're using the aspect Seismic Shift, and it gives you 2 spikes, which is really cool, so you're doubling your amount of damage. On top of that, if the enemy is either stunned or immobilized, then you're going to get an additional spike, so you can actually get, I think, 4 spikes at once. So that's already pretty crazy. But we're using Shard of Varathiel, which is buffing our basic skills quite a bit. And even more important than that, we're going with Vasili's Prayer, which is turning our Earth Spike into a Werebear skill. Now the Werebear skill is very important because we're going to be using Grizzly Rage as our ultimate, and that's going to open up the ability to use aspects like Rabid Bear aspect, and also Rampaging Werebeast. For our other skills, we'll use Debilitating Roar when we can in order to get more damage and damage reduction. The Wolves I just put in there as an extra source of like a tank that can hold an enemy's aggro for you while you lay out damage, but this one is optional and can be swapped. I also added Cyclone Armor because it'll passively give us non-physical damage reduction. And then I've got Claw in the build just so that we can alternate between our Claw and our Earth Spike before we go into our ultimate to get our shape-shifting stacks. That's for quick shift and heightened senses. For spirit boons, we're going with Gift of the Stag because maximum spirit is actually very important for adaptability. If you don't have a lot of maximum spirit, then it's actually better to put your Rabid Bear in your amulet slot because adaptability is based off of your max spirit, which means that if you don't have enough, it's not going to be as good as Rabid Bear. For Eagle, we're going with Swooping Attacks and Avian Wrath for more attack speed and damage. Under Wolf, we're going for Energize. And then for Snake, we're going with Obsidian Slam. But if you wanted to, you could go for Masochistic to get some extra healing. For the items, like I said, we're going with Vasili's Prayer. Shroud of False Death is going to be a huge damage boost, so make sure you get this as soon as possible. But you can use Insatiable Fury if you don't have it. Seismic Shift on the gloves, Tybalt's Will on the pants. We're always unstoppable when we're in Grizzly Rage, so this is really good. This also gives maximum resource, so it doubles up on the damage we're getting from a pant slot. Ballistic Aspect on the boots just to give more skill ranks. Shard of Varathiel. Adaptability for more damage, Moonrise for more damage and attack speed, Rampaging Werebeast for more ult duration and damage, and the Rabid Bear for more damage, and this is also going to cause our damage to synergize. This changes all of our direct hit damage into poison, which means that everything in the build is now poison damage. Now, if there's anything in the build that's still up for debate, it's going to be the runes. I personally am recommending right now Igni Thule. This is going to freeze enemies and make them vulnerable, but as you can see down here, I also put Sapping Crux. The Thule gives damage regardless, so it's still good to have. You get 15% here, but you tend to like to stay away from enemies, so maybe I'll go with the Warcry here instead for the 15% damage. For the other runes, we've got Bok Gar, and this is just keeping our critical strike chance maxed out, but again, there's other options that could go here, and this is not set in stone. For our Herodric spells, I'm going with Celestial Surge. This is really good because it pulls enemies together at the point of contact, which means if I throw out an Earth Spike and it hits an enemy, that enemy is going to have everything pulled to it, which makes it really nice for hitting enemies at range and getting maximum damage. We're going with Corrosive Vapor for the infusion, Bloody Charm for one of our Arcana, and this is basically in every build because it's just really good. Again, Sapping Crux for the vulnerable. Tendrilous Bundle is going to give us a chance to immobilize. This one is not required. You still have a chance to stun with your Earth Spike, but when you immobilize or stun an enemy, you're getting those extra lines that are coming out from your attack, so it just increases your damage quite a bit. For a weapon, we're going with Critical Strike damage. Overpower damage or vulnerable damage would be acceptable here, but I think critical strike damage is the sweet spot. For armor, we want Sapphire. We want as much willpower as possible because we still overpower quite a bit on the build. For our seasonal jewels, we're going with Idle from Below. This is going to give us some main stat. Scornful Light is going to give us 20% more damage. And Elemental Brand is going to apply poison when we hit enemies. This can also disable Vampiric on enemies, which is kind of nice, but not that important. If you want additional info, you can look through the entire guide. We've got attack speed breakdowns, mercenaries, and any changes I put in, I'll put into the change log. On the skill tree, we're going to max out our Earth Spike and get as much damage as possible going to Wild Earth Spike. In the next category, we're maxing out our Maximum Spirit for Heart of the Wild so we can get as much of that adaptability scaling as possible. And we're also going to put a couple points in Iron Fur for some damage reduction. Feel free to move a point from here down to the damage reduction if you need the survivability. In the next category, we're going to do the 1 point in Cyclone Armor just so we can get that passive damage reduction. We're going to max out Backlash and Vigilance, and then we're going to get Debilitating Roar, going to Innate Debilitating Roar. This is what gives us that extra damage when we use it. Again, if you need the resistances, you can move points from elsewhere and put them into here. Down the next category, we're doing the 1 point in Wolves just so we can put it on our bar. We're maxing out Nature's Reach for more damage. And this is part of why we want enemies to be further away from us, because we do a lot of extra damage with this. We're also going to max out Feral Aptitude. Down the next category, we're going to max out Provocation. This is just going to give us an additional overpower and increase the damage of that overpower. In fact, these 2 points aren't actually required anymore. You could put these elsewhere. We're going to max out Crushing Earth and Stone Guard for more damage. And just a note, Safeguard here is going to get 1 point from Shroud, but you should always have 1 point here. So if you don't have Shroud, make sure you put something here manually. That's going to give us Fortify, which is pretty important. We're also going to be maxing out Envenom and Toxic Claws. Keep in mind that Toxic Claws is working for the build because of the Rabid Bear aspect. So you wouldn't get use from these unless you're using it. Down in the ult category, we're going to max out Defiance, Natural Disaster, and Resonance for more damage. We're going to max out Quick Shift for more damage. And then we're going to max out Heightened Senses, which is going to give us damage reduction and movement speed. We're maxing out our Grizzly Rage, which will reduce the cooldown, but also give us 30% armor, which takes stress off of how much we need in our gear, which basically allows us to use that Tybalt's Will. We're grabbing both additional points. And then for our Keystone passive, I went with Earth and Might. Now you do have some options here. I think that Ursine Strength is a decent choice. It gives you more survivability and it gives you more damage on your overpowers. But the nice thing about Earth and Might is it makes it to where you don't need to stack up your critical strike chance. So honestly, I think either one's a fine choice. For the Paragon boards, on our starter board, we're going with Headhunter. From there, we're going to move up and we're going to attach the Heightened Malice board. And here we're going to be using the Spirit Glyph. Over to the left from there, we're going to attach our Survival Instincts board. And here we're running Keeper. Moving down from there, we're going to attach our Ancestral Guidance board. And here we're running Dominate. Once again, down from here, we're going to be attaching our Earth and Devastation board. And the glyph we're running here is Earth and Sky. Now, I do prefer the Fang and Claw glyph in terms of raw damage, but unfortunately, Fang and Claw is for enemies that are close to you, but Earth Spike works best against enemies that are further away from you. So I think it's better to optimize around things that are going to purely focus on that damage, which again is why I threw the Wolves in the build to make sure you can stay further away and keep the enemies on a different target. For Mercenaries, I recommend right here, just so you can get the extra resistances or armor. You can also get additional damage on both sides, so make sure you go for whatever you need in terms of resists or armor. Usually it's resistances. For reinforcement, I go with Variana for the extra attack speed from Bloodthirst. And make sure you check out my mercenary section at the bottom of the guide if you want to see more details. Now, I managed to wake up sick for season start yet again, but I decided to push through it and continue putting out videos. And I'm also going to be streaming at least 4 hours a day, so I hope to see you guys in my stream. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Daddy Druid out.
Subscribe to Scream Heart. He's more than an old fart. He makes lots of fun builds. I promise his streams chill. He should probably be faster. Come watch this disaster.